So I'm joined in the studio by Beau Williams. He's a spoken word artist based in Galway on the west coast of Ireland and the winner of the All-Ireland Poetry Slam Final 2018. Thank you ever so much for joining us today, Beau.
Thank you so much, Rosie.
So you're here in Paris for the Slam World Cup. Tell me about the selection process.
It was really, really fun. I'm representing Ireland currently. I'm based out of Galway. So the way that it's set up, there are 4 provinces in Ireland, and each one has their own preliminary slams to figure out who the top 3 are. And then once you find out who the top 3 are in each province, then they all go to, this year it was in Galway, and we had our the finals. So there was 3, 6, 9, 12 of us, and 3 rounds of that, and then the top, one gets to represent in the world. And I was lucky enough to win. So I'm here now.
Very well done. Very well done. So you're here, as you said, for the World Cup, which for me, when you're talking about slam or spoken word poetry, people presumably perform in their native languages. So how does it work at the World Cup in terms of, people expressing themselves in their local languages? Sure,
yeah. So it's required that you speak in your native language. And, however you normally write or perform your work, do it that way. But you send in the text ahead of time, and they have a team of translators who actually translate your poem from your native language to, I believe, English and French. For me, it was just French. And then they project it on a screen behind you. So, you kind of look like a superstar or a superhero. It's pretty fun. So.
And then you performed in the first round on Tuesday this week. How did it go?
It went really well. It was the talent was unbelievable. I've seen all 4 preliminary slams so far, and I did not make it to the semifinals, sadly, but that's the nature of slam. It all depends on the judges, and if they like you, if they don't like you, if you messed up, if you go over time, if maybe they accidentally fell asleep, or maybe you accidentally fell asleep. It's all subjective.
But the most important thing ultimately is taking part, and you are still the current Irish champion.
Correct. Yeah. And but honestly, I think I represented Ireland to the best of my ability, and everybody else just did a little bit better. And it was an honor to compete with and against these people. So it was a really, really good time.
And we'd love to hear some of or all of your performance. Can you give us some lines? Yeah,
absolutely, yeah. Sure. So this first poem that I'm going to read, I was this is the first poem I read at the competition, and it is about a time when I was in a bad place in a relationship, and I found a way to get out, which isn't always the case for everyone, but I was lucky enough to be able to find that, and I moved on to a better place. So here's the poem. It's called Happiness is an Old Harmonica. I find myself eating brunch with my parents and a girl that I really want to marry someday. My parents swear they hear daughter-in-law in her laugh, but this girl's a fighter. Says that family sticks to her teeth like tampered candy. Digs her cavities with a trowel. Soon, holidays will be comfortable enough to become incredibly uncomfortable. It is here I'll teach myself the art of the back pedal. Sometimes we say things we don't mean, or don't mean the things we say, and I love you. It slips off the tongue way too quick. A reckless child in Skechers. We often find ourselves in places we shouldn't. Hunched over dirty computer screens or tiny checkered tiles with our stomach and our teeth. It's under the heavy jacket of vagabond bottles and a bottle cap crown we close our eyes, search for a reflection in our own knuckles, but know for certain that in these places we are never truly found. For those who sweat metal splinters in the hollow seconds after I love you, know that that place should never be a waiting room. If they're not there with confidence in their pocket, they're just elsewhere ready to dance with you. Won't you move with them? Seek them out. They'll be the poodle skirt with the happy feet. So ready to groove, I love you does a mean mashed potato. They'll teach you to dance rubber-legged. My favorite canary stretches her smile from Galway to Paris, tells me to look up and hang on with my talons when I start to drown. Happiness is an old harmonica just waiting for me to pick it back up. It wants to rock like a front porch orchestra. I can hardly play, but I'd love to learn. There's so much I want to learn. Digest diction and books like a tattooed English teacher. Pump up the speakers in my chest and finally stand up for something. The moment we stop looking for ourselves is the moment we will be found and I will be found. One candle strong alongside 50,000 more. Tie your demons to the twisted roots of the closest tree, and we will walk from this forest holy.
Very, very powerful. And I'm happy to hear you're in a better place now, but it sounds really like your heart had been through the mincer in recent times.
I'm not the only one. It's very common, but yes, I'm in a happy place.
But quite therapeutic for you, is it? Poetry
Absolutely.
And performance, yeah.
This is, that's why I do it. It's, I found it's the cheapest therapist there is. The blank page is never going to laugh at you. It's never going to make fun of you or be like, oh my God, I can't believe you said that. You write down whatever you want and it helps. It helps unravel the rat's nest in your brain. I like to imagine it like the rat's nest. It can connect, a string down your arm through your hand into a pen. And then when you write it out, it kind of unravels it all and gets onto the page. And then you can look at it and be like, oh, that's why I've been mad. That's why I've been sad, and then you can, and then you can read it. And then you now have control over that, like this thing that had been taking over your body and your mind and every action you make, you write it down and you read it for someone. And all of a sudden you are now in control of the thing that was in control of you. And it's just, it's magic. And
it is interesting, that analogy with sort of psychotherapy, because a lot of therapists will tell their clients, to employ practical behaviors such as writing out, dreams, aspirations, and things of that have happened. So that's interesting that you use it that way. And then another thing is it interesting, and it's very evident to both myself when I met you, and then no doubt our listeners too, is that you actually speak with an American accent, and you grew up in New England, although you're competing for Ireland. So, just to sort of tell us a little bit about your sort of childhood there in New England and what led you to, your career choice and then to Ireland.
Absolutely, yeah. So, I'm from America originally. I have Irish roots. My grandmother's parents came from Ireland, so it's pretty far removed. But traditions have been passed down and all that. So I have always had a connection to the country. And I visited Ireland in 2016 to do an artist in residency position at the Ballyvoughan College of Art, or the Byrne College of Art in Ballyvoughan. And I absolutely loved it. I fell in love with Ireland. It was, I'd spent 28 years romanticizing it, and I finally went there, and it was way better than I had imagined. So I said, cool, I got to move here. And so I spent, I flew back to the States, and I saved up a bunch of money, and I came back, and I did that 2 or 3 times. And then finally I saved up enough, moved to Galway, applied for school in Cork, and then I got accepted. So then I went to get my master's in creative writing in Cork while living in Galway. It's a bit of a hike, but I made it work.
And then how were you able to convince the kind of slam community in Ireland, in Galway, that you're the man to represent them on the world stage? That
was a tricky situation for me, because the last thing I wanted to do was, show up and be like, I'm Irish and I'm going to try and represent. I would not ever want to do that. So I walked in and I showed them what I can do. I listened to, what everybody else had said and their suggestions and all that. And, when the time came for the competition to happen, I asked them, I asked the organizer, I asked all my friends in Galway. I said, is it cool if I do this? Because I really don't want to step on any toes. I don't want to be that guy. And they had all heard me perform before, because I had a monthly show and a weekly show in Galway where I would perform my work with either other poets or with musicians. And so I kind of had a group of a following, a bunch of friends who enjoyed my work, and they said, no, you have an Irish address, you live here, and we like you. And, I don't know if they're lying or not, but I like to think they weren't. They said, we like you, if I would love for you to compete. So I did, and I won. And now I'm trying to go all around Ireland and perform in different open mics and shows, and do workshops in as many counties as I can. I want to know the country that I'm representing as well as I can, and I want them to know me. And I think I've done a pretty good job so far of that.
It would seem so, because you're here in Paris for the World Championship. So bravo, well done once again.
Thank you.
And then it's interesting because it is a fairly new art form, slam poetry. You're a young man. Are you hopeful of being able to make a living from it?
That's my plan, actually. I've spent my whole life working various jobs, mostly in the food service industry, so serving or cooking or busing or whatever I need to do to make money. And I always did poetry on the side. And I actually always made sure that was the first thing I said when I applied for a job. I'd be like, I'm going to do the best I can while I'm here, 100% reliable, but know that poetry is, my main thing. And so I want to focus on poetry, and then I will work to support that. And luckily I've worked with wonderful people who support that as well. But now I've found that I actually have an opportunity to make that my career. I have the passion, I have the drive, and I have the possibility now. So there's only a handful of people in the world that are doing this as their only source of income. So there's not really a template yet, but I'm just picking bits and pieces and asking lots of questions and, following the people that I love and that inspire me, that are doing this for a living, and seeing how they do it and asking more questions. And, the more questions I ask, the more focused I can become, And then in practical terms, what sorts of things are you looking at doing to make it sustainable as a life, as a living, rather? Yeah, I'd love to ideally perform poems. I do, I have many different sets that I can do, 15-minute sets, half-hour sets, hour-and-a-half sets, 2-hour sets, whatever, of performance poems I can do. I want to do them at colleges, high schools, libraries, bars, anywhere that, wants to hear poetry. I'd love to do it there. And it doesn't necessarily just have to be Ireland. I mean, the EU is so tightly knit, you can go anywhere in a couple hours. So, there's that. I want to do workshops. I do writing workshops in high schools, elementary schools, churches, anything, anywhere anybody wants to write or listen to poetry. I will show you what I have, and, hopefully it'll be enough to inspire you, or maybe you can learn a thing, or, I'll learn a thing from you, and we'll make some poetry happen. Yeah. Wonderful. Well, thank you very much, Beau Williams, slam poetry performer, for joining us today on Radio France International. And people can find you online, can't they? Because that's definitely how I found you. Absolutely, yeah. You can find me on Facebook, Beau Williams. Just type in Beau Williams Poetry. Instagram, BW Poetry. Come find me. I'll say hello. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your time in Paris, Beau. Thank you, Rosie.